Imagine living in a world where desperation pushes you to the edge, to the point where you're forced to consider unthinkable choices. This is not a tale spun from the realms of fiction, but a harsh reality for many. Our story begins with a man, a common man, living a life not unlike many others in the vast expanses of India. A life characterized by humble beginnings, dreams of prosperity, and a family he cherished above all else. His journey into the debt trap was not a sudden plunge, but a slow, insidious descent. A job loss struck the first blow, the factory where he worked, a victim of economic downturn. His livelihood, built on years of hard work, disappeared almost overnight. Then came the medical expenses, an unforeseen illness that swept through his family, draining their savings with each passing day. An attempt to start a small business brought hope, a flicker of light in the encroaching darkness. But fate was not on his side. The business failed, swallowed by the stiff competition and market volatility. With each setback, the pressure mounted, the walls of debt closing in. The stress was relentless, a constant companion in his every waking moment, gnawing at his peace, his sleep, his sanity. His family's needs grew, but his means to fulfill them kept shrinking. The ticking time bomb of debt was a merciless foe, leaving him feeling cornered, desperate. When everything was falling apart, he made a decision that would change his life forever. In the face of overwhelming debt and the fear of losing everything, the man took a step that most would find unimaginable. Engulfed by the specter of poverty, the man found himself cornered. His mind raced, the echoes of unpaid debts and the looming threat of homelessness ringing in his ears. In the whirlwind of financial chaos, he made a decision that would change their lives forever. He decided to sell his wife, the woman he had once promised to cherish and protect. This decision wasn't made lightly. His heart ached and his mind was fraught with turmoil. His love for his wife pitted against the survival of the family. It was a choice that no one should ever have to make. Yet the societal norms and pressures that pervaded their community allowed for such a transaction to take place. The concept of a woman being considered a man's property, an asset that could be sold or bartered, was a grim reality in their world. The man was torn between his desperation and his conscience. The tears in his eyes mirrored the internal conflict that raged within him. He was fully aware of the moral implications, yet the relentless pressure of debt left him feeling helpless. He was a victim of a system that offered no support, a society that turned a blind eye to the struggles of those on the fringes. This unthinkable decision wasn't born out of cruelty or indifference, but out of sheer desperation. The man was driven to this point by circumstances beyond his control. He was a pawn in a game where the rules were stacked against him. His decision was a desperate cry for help, a plea to a society that had seemingly abandoned him. In a world where survival often takes precedence over morality, his story serves as a stark reminder of the lengths some are forced to go when faced with financial ruin. It unveils the harsh realities of poverty and the severe repercussions of an unjust system. In his desperate attempt to escape debt, he sold the woman he once vowed to protect. It's a statement that sends chills down the spine, an act that brings to light the dark underbelly of societal pressures and the crushing weight of financial despair. The transaction, as heart-wrenching as it was, seemed like the only solution to his problems. In a society where desperation often leads to unthinkable choices, our protagonist found himself on the precipice of a life-altering decision. The sale of his wife, a decision born out of the depths of despair, was an act that would forever mark his life. The process of the sale was as brutal as it was swift. A man from a neighboring village, known for his wealth and merciless business acumen, was the buyer. The price agreed upon, although substantial enough to clear his debts, was a pittance compared to the value of the life he was trading away. The exchange was carried out under the shroud of secrecy, away from the prying eyes of their community, but as with all secrets, it was destined to unravel. The immediate aftermath of the sale was a whirlwind of contrasting emotions. There was the relief that his debts were cleared, the shackles of financial burden lifted from his shoulders. Yet, this relief was tainted by the guilt and regret that gnawed at his conscience. Each night, his dreams were haunted by the memory of his wife's tear-streaked face, her pleading eyes etched into his mind. His home, once filled with the sweet sound of his wife's laughter, was now eerily silent. the emptiness echoing his deep sense of loss. His community, upon discovering the truth, reacted with a mix of shock and disdain. He found himself ostracized, the whispers of his neighbors serving as a constant reminder of his unthinkable act. His wife, the woman he once vowed to protect, was now at the mercy of a stranger. The thought of her living in another man's house serving him was a bitter pill to swallow. The guilt was overwhelming, the regret all-consuming. He found himself yearning for a past that was no more, a life that he had so thoughtlessly thrown away. His days were filled with a profound sense of loneliness, his nights plagued by nightmares of his wife's tormented eyes. The silence of his home was deafening, the absence of his wife a constant reminder of the life he once had. His once vibrant community now viewed him with contempt, their disdain a harsh reminder of the price he paid for his financial freedom. With his debt paid off, he was left with an emptiness that money couldn't fill. His actions, driven by desperation, had cost him more than he ever imagined. He was free of his financial burdens, but at the cost of his happiness, his dignity, and the love of his wife. The man who once had everything now found himself with nothing. The price of his freedom, it seemed, was far too high. In this tale of desperation and despair, let's not forget the woman who was sold, her experience and her struggle. A woman who, in the face of unimaginable hardship, found herself traded like property to settle a debt. Imagine the shock, the disbelief, the deep-seated sense of betrayal as the reality of her situation sank in. She was no longer a wife, a partner, but a mere commodity used to clear a debt. This was not a choice she made, but a decision she was forced to endure. The emotional turmoil, the fear, the uncertainty, all became her daily companions. But she did not let this define her. Her new life was cruel, far from the dreams she once nurtured. She was thrust into unfamiliar surroundings, treated not with love but with disdain. Yet, she stood tall. She found within herself a strength she didn't know she possessed. Every day she battled her circumstances, refusing to be broken, refusing to lose herself to despair. Her resilience was her armor. She held onto her dignity, her self-worth clinging to them like a beacon in the storm of her life. She found ways to cope, to survive. She discovered new skills, found employment, and began to carve out a semblance of normalcy in the chaos that had become her life. Her strength was her protest, her survival was her defiance. Despite the pain, the trauma, she found small victories in each day she endured, each challenge she overcame. She became a testament to the human spirit's ability to adapt, to endure, to rise above. In the face of such adversity, she emerged not as a victim, but as a survivor. Her story is not one of defeat, but of resilience, of survival, of an indomitable spirit that refused to be quashed. Her story serves as a stark reminder of the price some pay when desperation takes hold. As we reflect on this tragic tale, we must consider its implications and the harsh realities it represents. The story of this man, driven by desperation to sell his wife, is not merely an isolated incident of despair. Rather, it is emblematic of a larger issue rooted in systemic failures and societal pressures that push individuals to such drastic measures. This narrative underscores the dire need for financial literacy and awareness. The couple, with their hard-earned savings and dreams, fell prey to the vicious cycle of debt, amplified by the lack of understanding of how to navigate their financial hurdles. It highlights the importance of equipping individuals with the knowledge to manage their resources effectively, to prevent them from falling into such despair. Furthermore, the tale emphasizes the critical role of social safety nets in society. The absence of a support system, whether governmental or communal, left the couple with no recourse but to resort to such a tragic decision. It underlines the need for robust social welfare systems that can provide a lifeline in times of crisis. Moreover, the incident brings to the fore the urgent requirement for stringent laws against such practices. It is a disheartening reflection of the loopholes in our legal system that allow for such transactions to take place, exploiting the vulnerable and desperate. This story is a stark reminder of the depths to which despair can lead us, and the urgent need for change.